The first method that I'm going to mention from the fandom is going into mall restrooms with buzzing lights. So pretty much this theory posits that if you enter a restroom in a mall and the lights are buzzing in there, this increases your chances of being sent to the backrooms when you're inside. Specifically, you have to stay there for 10 minutes and then close your eyes. And when you open them, you'll be on level 0. Another method they say is rarer than that one, but you have to go through an out-of-place metal door. So pretty much these doors supposedly appear to you randomly in a random building. You'll notice them and you'll consciously know that they're out of place. So if you go through that random door, you'll end up in the backrooms. The fandom also posits a really interesting theory that you're most likely to be sent to the backrooms if you're in a space that looks like the backrooms in reality, almost like if there's some sort of connection between them. So if you're in a room with yellow walls and buzzing lights, you're more likely to be sent to the backrooms than if you're not in a room like that. So ninth, we have a pretty cool one. They're called skin stealers. These are big humanoids who have pale yellow-gray skin with deep-set wide eyes, and they wear the skin of their victims as a disguise. They eat human flesh, but only when they're hungry, and they wear the skin of their victims by attaching the skin to these bumps on themselves that are like those octopus suckers, and that will pull the skin tightly to them to make it look like they're actually humans. When they're not doing that, they just wander around aimlessly. It's said that they can mimic human voices, but they can't understand languages, so it's not perfect. And they just repeat phrases that they've heard before. So the fandom's way of exiting the backrooms is called the way out. Creative name, yeah? So in the fandom universe, the way out is widely accepted as the backrooms exit. The physical way out will appear to each person differently, but no matter what form it takes, it will always be surrounded with this intense yellow light. Nice. The way out typically appears randomly on any level of the backrooms and is extremely rare, obviously, pretty much to the point where it's almost impossible to appear. So far, only one confirmed person has even escaped through this exit. Reddit user Enigmatic Eva. That's according to the fandom, not me. It's also important to note that the way out leads to a random place in reality, so you'll have no idea where you are, unless you just know geography, I guess. There is one small issue with this exit though, and that's when you go through it, you'll temporarily be in this weird position where you're not in actual reality, but you're kind of in reality. Next up is the Game Master. This is the only entity that lives on level 389, or the Gaming Hall level. The Game Master controls every game on the level, which pretty much means it has full control of the entire level itself. The Game Master is actually a she, and she looks like a jester doll with a dress and sewn X-shaped eyes. And she hangs in the air and kinda resembles being puppeted in a way. Interestingly enough, the Game Master claims that she is actually trapped inside this level and she can't leave. That's creepy. I guess the cool thing though is that the Game Master does play these games on the level with any survivor who's trapped in level 389. But she always tries to cheat without the other player noticing. But if the other player does notice and calls her out, she's forced to stop playing. Nothing is known about where the creature came from, but it's assumed that an unknown entity controls her physical body movement, since her movement is so unnatural. She does seem to have telekinetic powers and reality-altering abilities as well, but this only works for her games and the level's physical layout. But yeah, she seems pretty cool. Next up is the Memory Worm, which is a giant larva lamprey type creature that has a mouthful of teeth. This creature also has metaphysical abilities, meaning it can change your perception of space and time or your reality, kind of like the Reality Stone from the Avengers. The Memory Worm has an unknown origin and has an undocumented habitat because they seem to appear at random. The outer layer of its skin is thick and coarse, and its teeth are lined up in a spiral pattern all the way down its throat into its body, and it has no visible eyes. However, once it eats its prey, it will, quote, birth whatever's left of its prey, and evidently the birthed remains can become an entire new entity that has metaphysical powers, and there are only 3 types of new entities that are created when the Memory Worm gives birth. Those are wormlings, memory facelings, and the splat. Nice. We got a giant worm that can control reality. Totally not disconcerting at all. Next we have the Hermit. This is a humanoid creature of unknown origin that lives in a shack that it carries around on its own back. That's pretty cool. The shack is made of an unknown material, but it resembles tin as we know it. When the Hermit deploys this shack, a front yard type thing appears in front of it, and this yard has sticks and pikes with heads of other entities on them, such as heads of skin stealers, hounds, a large intestine of a human, interesting, and the head of a strangler, also the eyeball of a smiler, and an unknown snake entity with purple scales. Despite the Hermit's appearance, he is actually very hospitable, even though he resembles what we would call a plague doctor. His accent is a manly, slightly Irish accent, and he enjoys lengthy, deep conversations, especially deep conversations about his food and the food he likes to prepare. The Hermit is known to be a cunning warrior and a skilled hunter, and has been witnessed using crossbows and bone saws and bear traps. And he seems like a pretty wholesome guy, just a lone wolf who hunts for sport and offers tea to random people. I mean, how can you hate him? Next we have Wretches. These are another zombie humanoid creature that were apparently once human, but due to lack of food, water, and sleep, mutated into these wretches. The process of changing into a wretch is called the wretched cycle. This process can be slowed, but never stopped. The only way to slow it is to provide proper food, water, and rest, but like I just said, you cannot stop the cycle, so once you get it, you're toast. A wretch's behavior has been documented as somewhat intelligent, but somewhat hive mind-like. In rare cases, they're known to craft and to wield weapons, but the majority act in a sort of hive mind sense. They have superhuman strength, and are typically fast on their feet. However, some are slow and just meander around like zombies. In order to avoid the wretched cycle, which you should do at all costs, you have to stay rested and well hydrated, and never, under any circumstance, attempt to save a wretch that is on stage 3 of the wretched cycle, because there's no hope for him then. So next up we have Stranglers. These are creatures who live on level 58.1 and hide in dark areas until the hunt. They're a bipedal furry creature with large beaks, and their hands are like a snake that can coil around the victim's neck. That's the name, Stranglers. Their feet are similar in shape to hooves, but they're like really spongy, so they make as little noise as possible when on the hunt. They walk in a hunched over position, but are still around 8 foot tall, and they only hunt during the blackouts when all the lights go off on level 58.1. When they're on the hunt, they silently sulk around in the darkness to find prey, and when they find a victim, obviously they strangle it, and then proceed to eat it. When the lights are turned back on, they immediately run back to the dark spot they left, and interestingly, Stranglers can't stand loud noises, and it's said to make as much loud noise as you can when you're on level 58.1, so they won't come near you. So if you're in a blackout on level 58.1, make as much loud noise as you can to deter them. Next up we have Dollfaces. This is an interesting creature found on several levels in the Backrooms, but most common on level 0. They are physically described as a cloth plushie doll, similar to the Raggedy Ann dolls of the real world. They're very dangerous until tamed, specifically if they're in a pack. Dollfaces will roam around until they see a wanderer or an explorer, and then they will approach it and say something along the lines of, quote, "Hi, I'm Dollface. It's nice to meet you." After this, the Dollface might attack you, or it'll just stand there. However, normally they just run away if they're alone. The only exception is if there's a group of Dollfaces. If there is, then once one introduces itself to you, the rest will attack. However, if you just want to tame a Dollface, offer it almond water and act nice to it, and they'll start following you around. Nice, a humanoid sentinel ragdoll who hunts in packs. I love it.